states that were considering name, image, likeness legislation. If we could put it back up and just so folks can get a good look at what Sahil was just referencing. This is the statute he was referencing. These are the states that are considering it as we speak. I want to bring in Chris Bosh right now, though. Chris Bosh is an entrepreneur, a writer, a music executive, and, oh, by the way, a two-time NBA champion who's set to be inducted into the Hall of Fame in just a few months. And he has a brand new book. It's called Letters to a Young Athlete. It just came out about a week ago. Mr. Bosh, thanks for your time this morning, sir.
Thanks for having me. I'm really appreciating being here.
Back during March Madness this year, you wrote this piece in the Players Tribune, Chris. It was called "It's Madness That We Don't Pay College Athletes." And you wrote in part, quote, "I still remember trying to figure out how to get groceries when we didn't have the money to buy them, or when we didn't have a car we could use to get to the store." Can you walk us through more about what your experience was as a college athlete and how the NCAA rules against profiting off yourself affected you personally?
Well, of course. The first thing that I love doing is to describe the usual day for a student athlete. And that usually entails weight training, practicing with your team, going to your classes, and mandatory study hall, which I don't know if they still do those things now. Now, I haven't talked about eating or I haven't talked about a social life. You know, it's almost like these kids our young men and women are working 2 full-time jobs. And then afterwards, I remember a distinct story, walking home after a women's basketball game, not having a car, and then not having a couple of dollars in my pocket to go get something to eat, even if I did want to. And you know, having those feelings are strange, especially when you know you're going to play on ESPN the next day, or that you can see new buildings going up across universities and you're struggling. There's a quote that I like in that passage that I wrote, is that as opposed to penalizing the student athletes in the universities for giving that kid a jacket because it's illegal, we should figure out how to stop them from being cold. You know, that's I'm not saying it's an easy solution, but it's something that we have to continue to talk about and try to figure out in this country.
I mean, there are no current players in this hearing that's happening right now on Capitol Hill. No current players. Do you think that Congress can get a real sense of what college athletes need if they're not hearing directly from the athletes?
You know, I don't think so. And I'm going to give credit to the student athletes who have led different pushes. I'm sure there are many organizations out there that want to be heard. And so I would definitely challenge Congress to make sure we're hearing from the source, to hear these experiences from these talented athletes so that we could figure these things out, because I don't want this to continue. I don't want student athletes to feel like they're stuck between a rock and a hard place of competing, trying to get an education and really just trying to have fun, because they're in a mode of their lives when you can do all three still. But like I said before, it's a very, very complicated topic. I just want the conversations to continue. And I do want Congress to hear from these student athletes and hear their stories.
In that piece, you wrote that you mentioned that things are even tougher for female college athletes who don't generally get the same coverage or even, as we've seen, equitable facilities to use as athletes. I mean, do you think a change like this would be an equalizer on that front?
I think so. And that is a part of the conversation as well. I think it all came to a head when, like you were referring to, we saw the vast difference between the facilities for the women's and the facilities for the men. Those are other things that need to be spoken about as well. And when I was at Georgia Tech, our women would practice every day at 5 a.m. Every day at 5 a.m. And you know, that was just such I'm sure a strain on their body, a strain on their mental fatigue, their mental health. And just, these are, they have to go to class, they have to practice, but we need to have better tools in place to help aid these student athletes. And I always give much respect to the women who play sports, because they have sacrificed much more than we have.
There are some athletes, as you know, like Tim Tebow, for instance, who've been critical of the idea, broadly saying it takes away from the team mentality. What would you say to those critics?
I would disagree respectfully. At the end of the day, we're talking about something that is an amateur sport, but it's a $1 billion industry. And so if you're coming in a situation to where you don't have any money, but you see that the stands are full every game, that's got to be kind of it's got to be disheartening. And, let's be frank, I am from a different part of America than Tim Tebow. So I'm going to have different values, different ideals. I'm sure he probably had a couple dollars in his pocket because his family could afford it. A lot of student athletes in these positions are coming from an area of poverty. They are the breadwinners for their family and the hope for their family because, just like in my situation and many others, they're some of the first to go to college and they're some of the first to get a higher education and be able to compete on a national level in their respective sports. So I would respectfully disagree. And it's because I've went through that experience, very short, but I shared that with other student athletes, and I know they feel the same way.
Let's talk about your book while I have you here. It focuses on life after the game and how to use what you learned from sports in the next stages of your life. What led you to write the book, and what do you hope that readers get out of it?
For those who don't know, I was in a position where I had to retire from the game because of a medical condition. I had pulmonary embolisms and then a blood clot later on, and I had to stop playing. I had to suddenly stop playing the game that I love. And I found myself in a moment of reflection. But most importantly, I was able to think about those stories, those values that I feel helped me be successful throughout my life and my career. And I've been lucky enough to have that thing, to find it and to find mentors and to find friends and to find coaches and teammates. And they have given me, as well as the experiences, they have given me, so many things to be thankful for. And so I'm reverse engineering my success in the hopes that not only young athletes, but everyone out there who is trying to accomplish something great, this is the book for you. I feel that you can find something in here that will motivate you to continue to keep going. And, it's full of gems that you could take for yourself and use for yourself. And these are things that I utilized in my life that I have seen actual success with in becoming an NBA player and a champion and a gold medalist in the game. So I want people to take it and use it for themselves.
I would be remiss if I did not ask you, while I have you here, who do we like in the playoffs?
Man, it's a good one. I think the Nets are the favorites for everyone. They're playing well right now. But I've been telling people about the Suns. I just want to see good basketball being played. But I would love to see Chris Paul, the old grizzled savvy vet. I would love to see him get a championship in Phoenix. That would be great for the city. And they're a storied franchise. They've been around for a while. But most importantly, my brother CP, I would love to see him win.
You heard it here first. By the way, another sign that we're getting old, Chris Bosh, when Chris Paul is old and grizzly and a vet. But I think that's a conversation for another day. But Chris, I know. Chris Bosh says the Suns can win it out of the West. They can beat the Nets. Chris, thank you. The book looks fantastic. Appreciate your time, sir. Be well.
I appreciate you. You do the same.